Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Spoilercast. Joining me today, I have Griddlybear,
Hello, I'm here.
VinSanityPuma,
Hi.
and Rainella.
Hello.
And then, for those that don't know, my name is Shenzo the Lost, and the four of us are all pretty big Final Fantasy fans. I would say that we have a combined, probably 2,000 hours of Final Fantasy franchise between the four of us, easily, right?
Whole franchise?
Yeah.
Definitely.
And we were all very excited when Remake was announced, and then, of course, when Rebirth came out, which was, man, almost a year ago at this point, which is pretty crazy to think about. And if you're wondering why we're doing a spoiler cast a year after a game came out, that's how long it took all of us to beat it.
It's my fault. It's my fault.
So-
I took forever.
It's okay. I was the first to do it.
Yeah. So, but with that being said, we just want to kind of talk all things Final Fantasy VII Rebirth today. We want to talk what we loved about it, what we hated about it, what we think it could have done better, what we think it nailed perfectly, and of course how it kind of fits into the legacy of Final Fantasy VII as a whole. For those that don't know, Final Fantasy VII has been around forever. It is considered by many to be arguably the greatest RPG of all time. It spawned countless spin-offs and media and cameo appearances. So why don't we just dive on in, everybody, and let's get started. So I think we should start off by talking about the gameplay of the game itself. Rebirth has a pretty unique way they handled the large party. So in traditional old school RPGs, you would have a certain number of party members that could be active at one time, and you would just swap them out. You would have to also do like a lot of grinding at times because they would only level if they were active. That is not really the case in Rebirth, kinda, sorta. They do still have this like, here are your main party members, but they also do a really good job throughout the story of like forcing you to use everybody. So they'll like split everybody into like teams of 3 or teams of 2, depending on, what the scenario is. And I don't know, personally, I thought that was a really cool kind of like homage to the original RPGs with bringing a more modern touch. Gridley, what did you think about the gameplay overall?
I'll jump on the party thing because I 100% agree. I do like that they did it seemed like a decision that's how they wanted to force you to use all the different party members. I thought it was good. I was a little confused. They had like a party selection thing in the menu, but I found you couldn't really modify it too much anytime, or there was a lot of times where you just couldn't modify. That's just a little UI confusion. But as far as once I accepted, okay, I think this is just what they're wanting to do. You have these dedicated groups in these different story sections. I thought that was great. Other gameplay stuff. I mean, do you want me to just kind of dive in even more?
Yeah, go for it.
So the thing, so I'll preface my entire speech today. It's going to sound like I hate this game, and I don't. I really don't. But I think it's one of those things, like Shenzo said, when you have so many hours in this as a franchise and it's so beloved, man, are you going to see the things that you don't like and kind of go at it? So the one thing I'm going to say is, from Remake to Rebirth, as with any kind of, we can call Remake an original game in the sense that like it's a brand new kickoff of this trilogy that they're building. What are you going to do in the sequel? How are you going to iterate on it? And in my opinion, I think there was too much. I think that's kind of my biggest thing with Rebirth. There's a reason I started it in February. I think 5 months maybe before Shenzo started, and I finished like 3 months after Shenzo did. There's just so much in there, and it's not even just content and story, which is all great, but I found the systems got really complicated. I found Remake was a really nice sweet spot of like having this kind of hybrid nature between an action more akin to like a Final Fantasy 15, very loosely a 16, more like a 15, but with the ability to pause. And yes, the game is still moving, but like it's moving so slow that you really you feel like you have a tactical command of the battles, and I thought that was so great in Remake, but in Rebirth, all that's there, which is great. But then they add on the synergy system, and there's so much materia that in my entire house I probably couldn't fit them all. There's so it's just it was a little much. I'll kind of leave it at there. It's very bloated in a lot of cases.
It is a lot. Like Rebirth is a huge game. I think the platinum is what, like 200 hours or something like that, in time to beat. It's
somewhere around.
I believe so. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It is a lot. So I think that is a very fair critique of the game, especially for like us as adults who don't necessarily have like 8 hours a day to grind in a game, maybe like we used to as teenagers. But Vin, I would really like to hear your thoughts on the gameplay as well. Like, what was your pros? What were your cons about it? What did you enjoy about the gameplay?
Yeah, so I probably would echo a lot with what Griddly said, especially because I'm always comparing it to Remake, and I feel like Remake did such a good job of condensing the original into the Midgar section and even condensing a lot of the gameplay, and then they wanted to open up Rebirth, and I think they made it way too open. And it kind of shows with all the mini games and all the other stuff that they just throw at you throughout the game. Combat wise, I do really like the combat. It basically took Remake and Kingdom Hearts and just mashed them together. At least that's how I felt a lot with it.
Oh,
with like
interesting. Okay.
with like the synergies and all the abilities, you get these extra prompts that come up. So that's kind of where I went with it, at least in my head. Had a ton of fun with it. It's just one negative that I would say is that I always love platinuming Final Fantasy games, and this is probably the first one that I was over it. I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to throw myself against that wall anymore.
Well, especially because isn't the platinum? Doesn't that also require like going back and beating it again on hard mode?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and that's where two of my walls were. That was so. I won't say exactly the boss, but there's a boss that you're stuck with two party members, and I feel like they're just not set up for it.
Yeah.
The other wall I ran into is the one of the boss rushes with all the summons.
Oh yeah, that's pretty hard. The summons are tough.
Yeah.
Rainella, we're saved you for last. What were your thoughts on the gameplay and like again pros and cons? What did you enjoy about it? What did you not like about it?
Love the game. I truly and honestly do. I love the fighting. I love the materia. It's something I love dearly because it made me feel like the original because of all the materia you could find and get. And I was like, this is so awesome. And cons, way too many minigames. I was so tired of Queen's Blood every 5 seconds. I was like, okay, I understand. You want me to play this game. I get it.
Queen's
but I don't want to play cards.
Queen's Blood definitely seems to be hit or miss on who likes it or not. It's either you love it or you hate it. I really haven't seen a lot of in between on Queen's Blood personally.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite things is the motorcycle game. I love that game
Oh, there you
much.
Oh yes, right.
Yeah, it's fun.
But into other things that I loved, playing Sephiroth at the very beginning, I probably almost fainted.
Yeah, that was that automatically made it a 10 out of 10 for Rainella right there.
Yeah, just seeing him sitting there on okay, we'll go back.
So we've dived in and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but this is where I think we'll get a little bit of divisive among us, and this is the story.
Bring it.
I want to talk about the story and the plot, and this is a spoiler cast, so if you do not want to be spoiled on a game that's almost a year old at the time of this recording, I highly recommend that you skip this section because we are going to talk about the plot from beginning to end in both Final Fantasy VII and in Rebirth. And it is controversial, particularly with the decision they made at the end of the game during the final 2 chapters. they made a decision, and it is a decision. So, without further ado, that is your spoiler warning on this spoiler podcast. But to kind of give a very brief summary of the overall plot is Rebirth essentially takes place after President Shinra has been assassinated. The party has fled Midgar because they are wanted criminals being blamed for his assassination, even though it was actually Sephiroth. And they are trying to track down Sephiroth and identify what is it he's after, which we later learn is the black materia, capable of theoretically destroying the world. So they go on all sorts of adventures. They go to Barrett's hometown. They go to Costa del Sol. Yuffie joins them. They end up almost striking a deal with younger Shinra until Yuffie sabotages it. Oops, my bad. And eventually find their way to the Temple of the Ancients, where they basically have to face all of their worst nightmares. And Aerith, of course, goes to the temple, where she ends up praying for assistance from her ancestors, the Ancients. And Sephiroth comes down, breaks through the ceiling, and Cloud saves her? But does he? And that's where this gets really convoluted, because welcome to the Final Fantasy VII multiverse, everybody. They went full multiverse with this. It was hinted at the end of Remake that that was the direction they were going in, with branching timelines and different fates. And no, they just outright went into not just one, not just two, but I think I counted 5 different timelines towards the end of the game.
I counted 6.
They went into a lot. Yeah, it might have been 6. I might have missed one. But yeah, they decided to go all in on this multiverse where the Whispers, which are these like arbiters of fate, have been split into 2 camps. Those defending the planet and those working with Sephiroth. And every time they get involved and the party defies fate in some way, it creates a new branching timeline. And I say the party, but we also got a resurgence of a long-dead character in Zack Fair, who also makes quite a couple puzzling appearances at first where we don't really know what happened. He's hinted at the very end of Remake, and you actually get to play as him during these like brief intermissions in the story. It does follow, in many ways, the traditional story. They do elaborate on some things like the origin of the Black Materia, and they go into far greater detail, I think, with Red 13 in this story, and Barrett as well. But it's a lot. So I want to go in reverse order this time. I want to talk to Rainella first. Rainella, what are your thoughts on this story and this convoluted mess of a multiverse they've established in the second game?
I think they're more pushing towards the fact that what happens if we all got what we really wanted and Aerith actually lives? What if she is alive in this timeline? And what if Cloud is really Sephiroth in this timeline and not Cloud anymore? What if Zack is meant to stop Cloud instead of Sephiroth now? And then you have the fact of the matter is, but which one is really Cloud, which one's really Zack, and which one's really Sephiroth? And I swear, they better not bring Genesis in here.
Well,
just leave him be.
I guess we'll find out in the fun finale. But yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. Is what if seems to be the name of a lot of these timelines. What if Zack survived? What if he decided to go rescue Biggs? What if Cloud saved Sephiroth, or not Sephiroth, Aerith? Definitely feels that's a great way to approach it, Rainella. Vin, how about you? What are your thoughts on the story as far as...
I mean, Multiverse is so hot right now, right?
Oh gosh, yeah. Just ask the MCU. Ayo.
Like, that's the
Ooh.
easy comparison there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I want to be excited for it because if they do it right, then it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm gonna be really hooked with it. But I feel like it's so rare for it to be done right, and then it's just gonna be a convoluted mess, and it just draws up my comparison to Kingdom Hearts again, just how like the original Kingdom Hearts, it started off such a simple thing, and then they branched off and did all of this stuff, and now they try to interweave it into some kind of coherent thing. So I don't know. I'm hopeful, but I just don't know what they're gonna do. Um, and I agree with Rainella that there are some characters they need to just leave alone.
Yeah.
Let them be where they are.
Please, no apples.
No, right.
You don't
the
want dumb apples?
Dumb apples?
No,
You don't want them dumb apples?
no, please, no.
All right, so Gridley, you're up. I know
Well,
you have thoughts on this.
I
so-
do. And so, first, I'm too old for multiverses, y'all. I don't get it. Like, here's the thing. I don't think I've ever been more excited heading into a game than I was with Remake's ending. I thought Remake had an almost near perfect setup for holy shit. They're actually gonna do some crazy, because that was always the question with that of how much are they going to veer from the original, that sort of stuff. And they just said, what do you want to see? Like you guys are saying, the whole what if. And I just found it, and I think this kind of juxtaposes with all of the extra stuff they added in the game, that maybe the stilted pacing of it made it more confusing that they were intending, at least for viewers and players like me. I found it super intriguing, but then there's intriguing aspects of how this game starts off with you playing as Zack, and you're getting the alternate reality, like his version of Midgar, following the events of Remake, like we saw in the trailers before the game came out.
Yeah.
And just going through that sequence, I remember watching Rainella's stream. I watched her play before I got my copy. And as soon as she got control Zack, like, I got chills.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is how they're opening this game. I'm like, everything's off. And then I found, you don't, there's not enough Zack as an example throughout. I thought they really could have used him as a powerful thing. He had some cool moments near the end.
Yeah.
Where he kind of comes in, he has that team up moment with Cloud, right? Like that stuff's super cool, but it's just few and far between. I might have suffered a little bit with how I played the game, because I played it in a lot of like a few weeks here, then a few weeks off, few weeks here, a few weeks off. So what I know what I would really like to do is I'd like to do another playthrough and just story blitz it, do a new game plus so it's brain dead easy, and just story blitz it and kind of get it fresh again. But overall, what I found is, because it had been so long since I played the original, I'm trying to remember, like, okay, what parts are in the original and what parts are new. And like some of the new stuff they added I thought was interesting. Like, I don't know what y'all thought about, who are they, the Gi?
The key, the ancient foes of the ancients.
Yeah, like that was new, right? Like from the bottom up.
I believe it was hinted at, but it definitely didn't go into that level of depth. Like, I think they were mentioned as like, oh, they created the black materia, like they were the enemies of the planet or something like that. But
Right.
I think it was at Cosmo. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. I was gonna say, I think you were mentioning Cosmo Canyon. So
yeah.
Bugenhagen talks about it a little bit, and if you like talk to a lot of the NPCs, you can kind of get a little bit more of it. But yeah, they definitely go into it a lot more in Rebirth.
Yeah, it's they really do a lot more detail, and that's what I meant by that. They kind of expanded on like Red 13 and even Barrett to an extent, like his story. They added more, and that was, I think, where the plot really shined, was with the character moments.
I agree.
I'll just be honest, like, I am not someone who gets super fired up about things, but I was really curious as what they were going to do with Aerith or not, because I don't know if you guys remember, but the rumor was that they were going to sacrifice Tifa instead of
Yeah.
Aerith here.
Yeah.
Or they were going to force a choice.
Yeah.
And based on kind of what happened, the theme at the end of Remake, that's the direction I was expecting to go, was that Cloud was going to have to make a choice between who to save, was Tifa or Aerith, and that was going to determine how the story branched out from there. But here it was like, no, what they did is Cloud got through like the Whispers, and like I said, every time they're involved and like you defy them, that's when it creates a branch. So
Mhm.
Rebirth ends with Cloud saving Aerith, but everybody else except Cloud sees Aerith get killed. And as a viewer, it's like, I'll just be honest, I think the biggest criticism of it is they tried to have it both ways. And
Yeah.
they tried to follow the original story where Aerith gets killed, and then they tried to save her at the same time. And it's kind of like they couldn't make up their minds on, should we do it or should we not? We're just going to do it both, and we're going to use multiverse as an excuse to do it, which is, in my opinion, as a longtime comic book fan, the wrong way to do a multiverse. Is if you're trying to have something both ways, it doesn't usually work. Now, obviously, I didn't hate it because I think it makes it more interesting with Cloud's like memory problems, is that everyone else is already suspicious of him because he's had these like moments where he like pushes Tifa off, a cliff, and has like brutally murdered people in front of them, like Sephiroth style. So I think that if they go in that direction where it's like they have Cloud questioning reality, I think they could save it. But that was kind of my like big takeaway and big controversy from the story. I liked every other part. I liked how they elaborated more on Yuffie. I liked how they integrated her into the story and into the party. I like how they brought in Sid in this case and Vincent as well, who are not playable party members, but you do get to hang out with them quite a bit, which was kind of cool. Yeah. And I do feel they did a good job of like giving every character like more moments and more personality compared to the original game. That's where I think the story's at its strongest. But
Couldn't agree more.
To Gridley's point, the part with Zack was awesome. Starting the game that way and then wondering, how is he still alive? Why are there two Clouds? And then they just don't spend enough time on it. They really don't. I think you only get to play Zack a handful of times. And in a game that takes, 100 hours to beat through the first playthrough? 50 to 100?
Yeah, I think I was around 90 when I finished, and I didn't do
I have 175.
Yeah, so, and I think that just depends on how much side stuff you do, going back to, like, how much is in the game, right? But I think if you just, like, blitz the story, it's still, like, 50 hours. And I think you probably only get to play as Zack for maybe, like, 3 or 4 of those hours, if that.
And a lot of it is just him kind of walking around the slums and talking. Yeah. Like, it opens so strong. Remake teed it up.
Yeah.
To, like, holy shit, Zack is in this? Yeah. That was just the post-credits scene of Remake was incredible how they set that up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they kick off with Zack, so you're thinking, let's fucking go. Like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the beginning.
Yeah.
And I haven't played it for a year. Like, I'm like, as soon as we get off, I might boot this up tonight. Because it's just, it starts so good.
Yeah.
And then, there's just not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough.
It's too few, too far between. I think, and Rainella, you can correct me, but I think on my playthrough, I thought, we're going to do, like, every, like, even chapter will be Zack. You do, like, chapter 0 is Zack, chapter 1 is the Cloud flashback, chapter 2 you go back to Zack. Yeah. Like, and then I remember my confusion when we go into chapter 2 and Zack's nowhere to be found. Yep. I was like, wait, they're not going to follow up on that? Like, right here?
My thoughts were going to be, like, the part where you're in Vincent's area. I thought it would be like a flashback. You'd go flashback of Cloud, flashback of Zack, flashback of Cloud, and see from what he did in Crisis Core.
Yeah.
So you would see Zack actually knock on the coffin, and you hear Vincent, snoring. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And see Cloud do the same thing. And it would have been like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
we see kind of them sharing the same mind at this point.
Yeah.
Because
And-
they are.
and yeah, and that was something too, like they definitely seem to focus more on Cloud as being influenced by Sephiroth rather than Cloud has Zack's memory, which is an interesting choice. I'm not gonna say it's a wrong choice because it's different, but it was. I definitely feel like they did focus like so much on the story is so much of Cloud has Zack's memories, and I just don't feel Rebirth really addressed that much.
No.
I feel Zack was kind of missing the entire time, honestly. So, yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Rainella, is that, yeah, I feel they had some missed opportunities. And again, I liked the story as a whole, but kind of the two key decisions I'm a little hung up on are where's Zack and trying to have it both ways with Aerith. I just,
But
yeah.
I want to know. Okay, so towards the end, where it's at the point where you have Aerith on the ground, she's on her knees, she's
Yep.
praying, and you get these two little buttons above your head for Cloud, and they're like, "You gonna kill her?"
Yeah.
And it's like, no, but I went back to test this theory to see what happened. Oh boy. So Cloud goes into this nice little, I'm scared to do this, I don't want to do this, Sephiroth is making me do this. And I'm like, Sephiroth is making you do this? Hold up. But you have Cloud, or Zack's memories.
Yeah.
Sephiroth is making you do this. And when you go to hit the buttons, they disappear. And Cloud starts going back into, I'm crazy Cloud again. And I'm like, how many times are we going to push the fact that Cloud is possessed or something? Somebody slap him across the face and tell him to wake up.
Yeah, the implication, and this has not been like formally stated, but the implication is that all the soldier treatments basically results in them becoming tied to Sephiroth through Sephiroth's connection to Genova. But so that's kind of why it's like when he's like Sephiroth is making me do this, Sephiroth, it's like he's being influenced by the degradation is what they're calling it. But
And like the Sephiroth gene,
Yeah.
or whatever it's
the
called.
Sephiroth
right?
gene. It reminds me. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the Tekken storyline, but it very much is giving me Devil Gene
Oh, no.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Devil Gene vibes
Okay.
here. Is like, oh, you just happen to have this gene or these cells inside you that are like causing you to turn evil or do like crazy things because of this connection. And it only really works, I feel, in the world of Midgar because they do talk so much about how everyone is connected to the live stream. So it's like, okay, maybe Sephiroth is like using the live stream and using the whispers to like influence anyone who has this connection to Genova through the soldier program. But they haven't elaborated on that, so that's literally just a theory, and it's not a game theory because I don't want to get sued. But
It feels more like Cloud got, I know he got more of the gene, but, if it is that way, Zack doesn't seem very affected by it.
well,
If you look how he is.
yeah, but also this is Zack in an alternate timeline that's already dying. So Sephiroth is probably focused on the one that isn't dying, because the other multiverse implication is that there's multiple versions of Aerith, multiple versions of Sephiroth, kind of like being anchor beings for you comic book nerds out there, that exist in all timelines, and in all of them, Aerith is the last defense for the planet, and Sephiroth is the one trying to destroy it. And Sephiroth has succeeded in almost every other timeline. So that seems to be kind of the two constants. Obviously, again, this is still speculation and implied, but yeah.
Can we touch on that for a sec?
Absolutely.
So the thing that got me, well, I'm going to keep saying the thing and then say a bunch of different things, but the thing that got me is, like in the original, Aerith has no idea that she dies.
Yep.
But she fucking knows what's happening the entire time.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
And so does Red 13.
And so does Red. Exactly. Now, there's a theory I saw that I'm just quickly trying to scan it. There's a theory I saw that every time the whispers touched them, leading up until Rebirth, like memories were getting taken away.
Yes.
So
So I can confirm something is that
okay.
in Red 13's date, because that's who I got, he tells
Oh.
Cloud that
This is what I
Aerith,
read about. Perfect.
yeah, that Aerith and Red could see the future up until the point in Remake where they defied the Whispers and beat the Whispers. And
Right.
when they did that, it wiped out all of their ability to see the future.
Moving
So
forward.
moving forward, and I don't
But
know
they
if you
still
noticed.
knew.
Yeah, but they still knew to an extent.
Right.
But because Red even tells Cloud during the date, you need to save Aerith. You have to be the one to save her. And then Marlene in the alternate timeline, well, for Zack's timeline, also talks about how Cloud is too late to save her. She is talking about how Sephiroth kills her in the original game. So there's some weirdness there as far as like what makes them being able to see the future. Is it because of their like ancient bloodline or ties to the planet? But it is confirmed that up until the end of Remake, Aerith and Red were able to see the future, and that's hinted in Remake too. Like Aerith knows who Cloud is before he introduces himself.
Yeah.
There's all
In
these
her
hints.
dream.
That she knows what's coming, and she's doing it anyway because she is the protector of the planet and trying to go along with the Whispers. But yeah, again, it's a lot of weirdness, especially when you do just like multiverses and time travel and seeing the future. Like all that can get really convoluted really quickly. So
Yeah, and I think where I get hung up is, and I have a feeling this can get mitigated. Like I wonder how much of my issue with this overall and me not understanding fuck all, because I'm not as big. What? Not as big. I'm not a big comic book guy at all.
Yeah.
Other than what I see in the MCU, and I wonder if they do the final part right, maybe it makes sense. But I'm very big when I play games on motive, and I can love a shitty character if they're a consistent shitty character, or if they grow in a consistent way. If they have like an arc, it's like I cannot like somebody, but at least they did their part in the story. And so I have a hard time with like having them know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost feels like they're playing dumb up until, but they know what's going to happen anyway. You know, at the end, Aerith is saying like, no matter what happens, don't blame yourself.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So you know that she knows. So like at that part where she's with him in the church, I'm going like, just fucking tell him.
Yeah.
She's scared to tell him.
It's one of those things where, and this is why it's like seeing the future and time travel get crazy, because it's that like, I can't remember what the name of the paradox is, but it's like, if it has to happen, you can't tell anybody that it will happen, otherwise it won't no longer happen.
Like the butterfly effect thing.
Yeah, like a butterfly effect, but there's an actual paradox for it where it's like, if you, let's just say hypothetically, you go back in time and you go to assassinate Hitler.
Yeah.
You succeed, and then you wipe yourself from the timeline because your timeline no longer exists, because you grew up in a timeline where that didn't happen. So that it's like this like temporal loop paradox where it's like in order for things to happen a certain way. But again, this is like sci-fi like stuff. A casual like audience isn't gonna immediately think of, oh yeah, it's like the time loop paradox. Yeah. It's like it's explored, but you have to, whenever you do time travel, there's a reason why they dumb it down into like simple stuff.
It's for people like me.
It's just for the average casual viewer who isn't gonna like go diving deep into the lore. It's like, if you want to do stuff like that, it's cool to like drop hints so you could go back later. But if that's your driving point of your plot, you're gonna lose some of the more casual audience. Like, so it's a fine line to walk.
You're gonna be like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I feel like Aerith and Red, in like the meta, they're like the producers, and they're like, hey, look at all this stuff that's happening in Rebirth.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you the answers to it all. You got to play the third chapter before you can really finally know what's going on with everything.
Yeah, and the easy out to like, oh well, how did they know everything? It's like, how could they have prevented it? The easy out is, well, when they defied the fates at the end of Remake, they changed the timeline.
Mm.
Which there is indications of that. That's why like the white materia that Aerith has disappears.
Yeah.
So there are explanations, but the problem is, and this is something that the developers at Square Enix, one in particular who's done Kingdom Hearts and is also behind Rebirth and Remake, he has a tendency to kind of like get a little too like abstract with his storytelling. And that is, I think, my fear as the story moving towards the end is I don't want another Kingdom Hearts 3 where they had to rush everything and push all the threads together in a way that just didn't work and felt forced.
I feel like there's the person you're referring to comes up with so many good ideas and so many good plot points that just don't always land and tie together how you want them to.
Yeah,
They try to put it in there, and then they're like, "Ooh, maybe not right there. Maybe over here.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's bad too. Well, never mind."
Yeah, and again, this is not a knock on this particular producer's long and storied career, but this is just probably his worst habit as of late. So
played a vast majority of his games anyway. It doesn't stop me.
Exactly, right?
I'm still gonna play them.
But I kind of do want to shift topics here because we are on a time limit. And I want to talk about some of the other things because there is a lot to love, and we are being like kind of playing haha with the plot, right? But understand everybody, and I think I speak for everybody. It's coming from a place of love, a love for the franchise, a love for the characters, a love for the game, a love for the director. It is not like this is not Angry Gamer Hour. If you want to go do that, there's plenty of creators out there. But one of the personal highlights for me, and I wanted to touch on this, was the voice acting and the music. Now, I know that there were audio balancing problems in the game. I want to acknowledge that first off, but the voice actors they got for every character, except maybe one, and we'll talk about that in a minute, were just perfectly cast, in my opinion. They really, really got to shine and show off what they could do in this game. The interactions, the character moments, as I mentioned before, were a personal highlight for me, and part of the reason why was because of the quality of the voice acting behind it. They made you feel that these are real people with real problems, with real relationships. And a particular highlight for me was how they finally kind of played this game with Tifa and with Cloud about what is going on with Cloud. Because in the original, Tifa is just kind of like pretending that she doesn't know things are wrong, but they've made it very clear throughout Remake and in Rebirth that she, and Barrett joins in with this as well because he's known Cloud the longest with her, they're always kind of looking at him like, Cloud, what's going on? Now, I wish they would be a bit more confrontational with them at some point. I'm sure Rainella will agree with me on that. But
100%.
But the voice acting was a definite highlight. And then when the audio balancing wasn't a problem, the music is phenomenal. Like, this soundtrack is unbelievable.
It's the GOAT.
Yeah.
It's the absolute GOAT. They took one of the best soundtracks ever already and modernized it in Remake. And then they took what they did in Remake and just completely evolved it once again to the point where we get like 5 or 6 different arrangements of all the different themes.
Yep.
They went and popped off. Mm-hmm. And I'm with you, Shenzo. I couldn't believe it. The music tied in so well. Every time I heard a new arrangement, I'm like, oh, this is so sick. Like, it's the same song you've heard so often, but it's got a bit of a, we're in this moment of game where it's a little more tense.
Yeah.
So like the pace is slowed a bit. And the accents of the music are just softened just a little bit to tie into that emotion. And then the voice actors, for me, it's like when you read a book and you just like, you imagine what a character looks like. You imagine what a character sounds like you said, Shenzo, it just like, you hear the voices and you're like, yeah, that's them.
Yeah. No, for sure.
It's awesome.
Vin, I know you have an opinion for one character. We've talked about it before. Uh, I'm pretty sure you've talked about Red 13's.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in
yeah.
that camp too.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in there.
I think all three of us are agreed that it is a very jarring switch.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh boy.
I would
Um,
argue he is the best and the worst
At
of
the
the
same
game.
time, yeah, it's
Yeah, isn't that something?
yeah.
That crazy
Isn't
how
that
happened?
something?
But Vin,
But
I know you have thoughts, so I wanted to save that for you.
yeah, so Red he's of the group, he's definitely high up there on my characters and loved his original voice. And then when they do the switch of his like little kid voice, it just took me out.
Yeah.
He just wasn't the same for me. And I guess it's a kind of a nod to or it's a, feather in his cap for the voice actor because he does do both voices. I
It's the
just
same
wish
guy?
Yes,
pretty
it's the
sure.
same guy.
No
Yeah.
It's the same
way.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that part is cool. Good for him. I
That
just
part
wish,
is cool.
yeah, I just wish that's not the direction they went with it.
Yeah, and like I get it because he's supposed to be so young for his race, but it just you have him speak in one voice for like half the game and then just to switch it so abruptly. And they do
Oh.
drop like teasers and hints, but it just yeah, it doesn't land for me either.
But like, does his species need to have a prepubescent voice?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Right? Like,
Gridley,
can't he be young and still have the same voice? Like, I don't.
you're
And just
introducing logic to an illogical situation.
Yeah, I guess.
Like,
Don't do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just. But you're
Even
right.
Rose, like, get that shit out of here.
You're right. But yeah.
I will say this kind of goes back to remake though, but about the voice acting is I always think about Brianna White. She's the voice actress for Aerith.
Yeah.
And you can see her reaction when she first runs into Aerith in remake and she starts crying and bawling up and stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's cool to see that it meant that much to her. And a bunch of them have voiced how much this meant to them. And I guess another one is Matt Mercer being Vincent. They did a cool little way to I guess break the news to him that he ends up being Vincent. So
Yeah.
pretty cool thing that you guys can check out.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. It's pretty cool to see some of these voice actors' reactions. Rainella, we have all three, I think, danced around one of the other big characters and their vocal performance. And I think we all were saving it for you. Rainella, you want to tell us how much you love Sephiroth's voice?
Oh my god. His voice is so smooth. It makes me go, yep, that's the bad guy. Yep, that's my man.
And he has
But-
such a great delivery. Like, you just can't help but think, oh my god, he's so cool.
From the point he's at the beginning with Cloud talking to him, and you hear it, and it's like, oh boy. From in the van he's talking, from in the village, from when he has the fire behind him, and you're like, uh-oh. That's good range. That's really good range. The music is spectacular. You have the opera scene where you have Aerith singing, and it's so beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that area is just beautiful. And then Cosmo Canyon hits, and you're like, this is childhood. This is nostalgia. I'm home.
Yeah, one of the things that I feel Rebirth did a really good job with is balancing that nostalgia while also telling a modern story. We kind of hit on it at the beginning, but I do feel that nostalgia can do a lot for people, but in order to get a new audience, which is clearly what Remake and Rebirth are aimed at doing as well, I think Rainella hit it. It's like there are points that are just so well made and so well done, whether it's the atmosphere or the voice acting. Sephiroth in particular, I think, is a standout in an already like elite cast. He is so good at being the bad guy. And even if the story is confusing, the performance makes it abundantly clear that it does not matter what the story is. Sephiroth is bad and you need to stop him. And for an actor of any kind to do that, I think that is among the highest praise I can offer, is that I don't care what the plot is, because you are doing such a good job of being the bad guy that I just want to stop you.
And hearing him talk to Tifa at that point when you're walking through there and he's all laughing,
Yeah.
and you're like, that's not my Sephiroth, but that is my Sephiroth.
Yeah, it's Sephiroth before he lost his marbles.
Yeah.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
It's another thing that I wonder if they'll, specifically with Sephiroth, I will wonder if there is ever a timeline, or they will even try to explore it in the third game, where Sephiroth is not the bad guy.
Don't do that to me.
I don't give me hope. Rainella's saying, "Don't give me hope."
Don't give me a good guy.
I was just gonna say, when we were talking about multiverses and what they might be planning with the third one, is I really hope they don't do some kind of like Sephiroth redemption thing.
Yeah.
Keep him
No.
evil.
Please don't.
That's what he's good at. It's just like
Please.
Joker. He's evil
Please.
through and through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Don't take
agree.
him back to Crisis Core.
Yeah.
Let's leave him here. He's good bad. He's
Yeah.
good bad.
But yeah, so I think we are wrapping up our time window. I think we got about 15 minutes left. So I figure we should talk about personal highlights of the game. What was your favorite moment? Because again, we did decide to do this out of love. I know we have kind of made fun of a lot of stuff for a good portion of this, but I think all of us are in agreement that we did like the game. May not liked everything about it, but we loved the game. So does anyone want to start on what your favorite like standout moment was? And it doesn't have to necessarily be one, because there's a lot. If you want like 2 or 3, that's fine too.
I can think of a few right off the bat.
All right, go
and
for
we'll
it,
try to
Griddly.
rapid fire them. So we talked about the opening with Zach.
Yep.
Couldn't have opened the game better, in my opinion. That was just remarkable. What a way to get your emotion rolling.
Yeah.
And just there was a lot of momentum kind of built in that scene of he's trying to figure out what's going on, but then also defend himself and also protect Aerith, and it was just excellent. There's a few moments that brought me to tears. And I think there's a few moments that probably brought all of us to tears, like the same ones, but one that I didn't expect to, when I walked through Calm.
Oh,
I just went, because it's at the beginning of the game, Calm was so small in the original game, and I just looked at it and went, if this is what they did with Calm, like, what's next?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I just kept looking at it and be like, we don't deserve this. We've been calling for this game to be remade for decades, and it's finally here. It's just the attention to detail, that whole sequence of walking through. The first time I spent probably 30 minutes not talking to anybody, just walking, checking every interaction that was happening, just literally making my character walk so I wasn't running. It's just remarkable. And then I think honestly, the whole final sequence of just all the multiverses kind of clashing together, where Cloud and Zack are back to back, and I remember, like, on stream, as you guys were probably, I'm going like, what, this is so fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And those are just like the ones that come to mind, but there are so many good ones.
Yeah, I mean,
we could talk about this forever.
yeah, we really could,
there's
but
lots of good ones.
unfortunately we have a schedule to keep.
Yeah.
So, but Vin, I saw you were pondering. I don't want to put you on the hot seat, but do you have a couple in mind?
Yeah. I mean, a general one is just whenever it would stick to the story and not throwing me into mini games. I loved that. It was like, putting an extra shine on my childhood in a way. So that was a big one. I already went and talked about the voice acting and the music. And then like a specific moment was when you learn about Red's father and the truth of all of that. Yeah, it's always been a huge moment for me.
Yeah.
It mirrors a lot of things with even my own life and my dad. So it hit even harder with this. So it was awesome to get that moment again and relive it all over.
They hit a absolute home run with that scene. I was
Yeah.
worried if they could live up to that moment, and not only did they live up to it, but they surpassed it. So I agree, 100%.
I forgot about that, Vin. Yeah, that was oh
Yeah, and the way that the
geez.
music hits right when
Oh
he's
man.
right when Seto is crying. Oh
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Rainella, how about you? Do you have a favorite moment or moments, I should say?
Moments. So my biggest one would be the whole opera part. The
Oh yeah.
Cloud and Barrett. The music there is fantastic. The fight is just amazing. I want Cloud's outfit that whole time. And from there, you go into Air singing, and it's so beautiful. And it's like, this is what I wanted. This is Aerith that we all wanted to see. And from there, you go straight into Cosmo Canyon, and it's like, oh my god, this is amazing. They did so much there. The music, Red, his dad, everything there. It's just great. And then the final battle, my all-time favorite, because just seeing how much they did with Sephiroth as Jenova and seeing Cloud fighting with Zack and Aerith popping up and fighting with Cloud, and it's like I'm crying the whole time because this is what I wanted. In the original, I wanted to see Zack back. I wanted to see Aerith standing by Cloud again. And it was all beautiful, and I'm tearing up again.
Yeah.
It's like
No.
Rainella, you're making me tear up, dog.
Yeah.
Jesus.
No, legitimately, Rainella, that is. I think you summed it up perfectly. And now I have to follow that. Thanks.
You're welcome. Love you.
But no, I agree with all of you guys. I think all of you picked out a great moment. But for me, I think one of the biggest ones was when Cloud finally breaks down and tells Tifa about all the people in his head. Um, that is a moment like we addressed it earlier, but the number of times when the characters just kind of like notice Cloud is doing something weird and just don't respond at all, like they don't react. It's a little jarring.
Yeah.
So when Cloud finally breaks down after like nearly killing Tifa, by the way,
Yep.
and tells her like I feel like I have so many people like in my head. I don't know who I am anymore. That moment meant so much more. Like they made me wait for it, but man, it was just. And again, I just go back to the performance of the voice actors. Like they drove that scene home. And so for me, I know it's probably not a moment most people are going to look at and go like, "Oh my god." But as someone who has always kind of had trouble with like these heart-to-heart moments and who has had a heart-to-heart moment just like that with someone, it hit me really hard in the feels. And I was just very, very happy that they put it in there. Now, if you ask me the best moment, it is without a doubt Aerith's singing. No Promises to Keep is such a amazing musical addition, and it's so perfect.
Yeah.
And I've read behind the meaning of the song is that it's supposed to be Aerith expressing her true feelings, which, like we kind of hinted at, she hasn't really been able to do because she knows what's coming. She knows she's destined to die. So when you kind of put all that in perspective, it just adds like layers upon layers of it for me. And I'm a huge comic book fan, so like I don't mind going through like layers and layers of stuff as long as I enjoy the ride. And that's the best part about Rebirth to me is that yes, there are parts that drag. Yes, there arguably is too much to do, but I loved the ride from start to finish. And even the things I'm not certain about, they've got me, guys. I'm sorry. They've got me. I'm hooked. So I'm so excited. And I want to take this kind of moment to transition to our scores. Rebirth is 2024 Game of the Year for me. The highs that it hits more than make up for any of the deficits it might have, in my opinion. And I look at like the bloat, yes, I think is a fair criticism, but it also gives me a reason to go back and replay it. And just from top to bottom, I really did enjoy the experience. No disrespect to Astrobot, which I think is a absolute Game of the Year contender for sure, but I did not have the same attachment to Astrobot that I did to Final Fantasy VII. And Rebirth, I feel every moment they needed to hit out of the park, they did. Even the part I'm critical of with the having it both ways with Aerith, like the way they presented that was so visually stunning that I still really enjoyed it, even if I was going, what the fuck, the whole time. So I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10, personally. It's my Game of the Year. I think it's phenomenal, and I think if you're a Final Fantasy VII fan, I think you should give it a shot, 100%. Griddly, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so going into this, when we first talked about, okay, when I finally finish this game, we're going to talk about it.
Yes.
I was in a pretty down spot about this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think time heals wounds, I guess, right? Because you summed it up well, Shenzo, in that us talking about, Vin's bringing up memories I totally forgot about. Rainella's wording exactly what I saw, but in a way that is just, it makes it more important than I gave it credit for. And it's just, I mean, if I had to score it, I think it can't be more than a 9 for me because of all the bloat, it's the forced mini games that get me. It's the pacing. Vin mentioned it, how you get awesome story beats, and then there's, oh, now I gotta take my chocobo through Gungaga, which we didn't even get into, but fuck navigating Gungaga. Fuck that part of the game. I have a DM thread with Rainella specifically in that thread of the game asking her, like, does this get better? Because I'm gonna snap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then I get to the story beat of Gungaga,
and it's like,
and it's the whole pushing teeth off the edge. It's the emerald weapon that's there, and then I remember, I think I might have even texted Vin and being like, I'm so fucking back. Like I just did the story thing, and like I'm in now. And then I would get to the lulls and so all that sort of stuff. Like I can't give it a 10, but I think you pointed out that the ups are just too. The ups are too good. When they're hitting, no one does it better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No story does it better. No company does it better. It's just remarkable.
Yeah.
9. I'll go 9.
Okay.
Vin, how about you?
Yeah. So I'm also on the boat that it's my game of the year. That's 2 years in a row now that a Final Fantasy was my game of the year.
Nice.
And that's part of my issues is that sometimes I was comparing it to 16.
Yeah.
Which isn't fair because they're totally different.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's just kind of how my brain was working. But you're right. Anytime that the stories or the gameplay or even some of the mini games, when they hit, they are top of the line. Can't beat them. And one thing I forgot to mention is something I loved about this is that even playing as the characters, they feel like themselves. That they're not just like a skin. Like I felt like in the original, and how the materia system worked, like anybody could do anything almost, which kind of goes with the world. But I feel like in this, like they actually had like their own kind of jobs in a way.
Yeah.
So that was good for me too. If I were to give it a point scale, I would split your guys' difference into a 9.25.
There you go.
Oh, Game Informer style.
All right. Hey, we take it. We didn't come up with any rules for this, by the way, so that's totally legal. And Rainella, last but certainly not least, how would you rank this game?
Well, I'd have to say a 9.7 because when it's hitting, it is hitting. When it's not, you have Red 13. That's what you have. You have teenage Red 13 all on you at all times, and it's bad. But then you have parts like Gingaga. I get it. It's long, and in Gridley's word, fuck that. I ain't doing that again. But seeing Sissany there again, it was like,
Oh,
oh, I
my
miss
girl.
you.
Yeah.
And just seeing everything around, seeing how much work they did on it is amazing. The music, the characters, everything is just beautifully done. And I appreciate them, and I'm so happy they did this.
Yeah, it is. I definitely feel that if there's one thing, they put all their heart and soul into this game, for better or for worse. You know, weird story choices aside, um, I'm very curious to see how they'll finish this game, how they'll finish the trilogy, how they'll finish this retelling, and I will be among the first to buy it. And I am
Me too.
desperately hoping that it is not Kingdom Hearts 3. Uh, so fingers crossed. Knock on wood.
Well, now I'm scared.
I can settle for Kingdom Hearts 2 if it's
Yeah.
like that.
Can we go with 2?
Yeah, I'll go with 2.
Hey Shenzo,
Yeah.
what's your title for the next game, and what's your one sentence pitch?
Oh gosh.
Because I have one that I could maybe just get some juices flowing.
I don't have a title.
Okay.
My pitch would be something along the lines of, I'd probably have to say Fates Collide, where you take all these different multiversal timelines and they all coalesce together. Like something on the theme of your decisions matter. So I would go probably Fates Collide. That would be my tagline for Rebirth, or for
Let's
the
go.
sequel.
Let's go. I'm in.
How about you, Gridley? What's yours?
So mine's very much like yours. I like the Fates Collide, and the reason I bring that up is there's that moment with Zack at the end of the game, and what does he say? He repeats that line that Sephiroth said to him, where he's something like the world will unite or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of jumps off into wherever Zack's going. So I think it's gonna be Final Fantasy VII Reset. And it's the reset. We're going back to steal, the Loki line. There's like the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna come to a head, and we're resetting. What that'll be, don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking it's Final Fantasy VII Reset, and I think Zack is a huge part of the third game.
I think he has to be.
Yeah.
With especially, we didn't talk about this at all, but out of those like 6 timelines, Zack is part of 5 of them, I think. So he is one of those like common denominators of like, he is part of like all of these different timelines. So yeah, I would hope so. I hope he has a bigger role than he did in Rebirth, for sure. Vin, do you want to add anything to that, Rainella?
Yeah, I was trying to think. I think the name that I'm thinking they might go with is Remaster, just because they've been very meta about their names.
Okay.
So remake, they had Reunion, and now Rebirth.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be Remaster. I don't know how that would really tie in like a pitch though, other than it's just like a mastery of the story being finalized in a way.
Okay, that's cool.
So I actually will give I had one, I just couldn't think of it. It's Final Fantasy VII Reunion will be the title. I think it's going to be Reunion.
Okay.
I know it's really on the nose. It's not original at all. Don't come at me, but that's what they've been hinting at for the 2 games now. So I think it will be
Yes.
Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
Fair.
The only the only thing that's throwing me off on Reunion, because I've thought of that too,
Mm-hmm.
is just that they called Crisis Core that.
Yeah,
Like the Crisis Core thing. That's the only thing that's throwing me off.
but
But Reunion
yeah,
probably makes the most sense thematically,
yeah,
and it
but,
would make sense for a lot of reasons.
yeah, but that was Crisis Core Reunion, not Final Fantasy Reunion.
It's true.
So,
Right. It's true.
technically speaking, no.
It's true.
But
It's
it's
true.
good. That's a fair point.
It's true.
Rainella, how about you? Do you want to add in anything on this, on a tagline, what you think the title's going to be?
I feel like it's going to be called Retail, like
Retail? Okay.
Retale,
Yeah.
Retail,
Oh,
because
retail.
they're retelling the story
Yeah.
Mhm.
from different points of view. So retell your own story.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like it. I like it.
Mm.
Well, everybody, thank you very much for watching. We did go a little over, but I think that was worth it, 100%. Griddly, Vin, Rainella, thank you guys for participating. Griddly, thank you for pitching this idea. Griddly pitched this idea back in like September of last year, I think. It was a
Something
while ago, and I just want to thank all of you guys for taking some time and offering your thoughts. But yeah, you can check all of us out on Twitch. All four of us stream, and I'll be dropping all of our links below in the description of this video. But yeah, definitely go check that out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. No matter where you're watching this, make sure to follow all of us and on Twitch and on other social media, mostly on Blue Sky. I think that's where all the cool kids are hanging out right now. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and we will see you all maybe for another spoiler cast after the third game comes out. Anyone want to maybe commit to that now?
I'm up for it.
Yeah, I'm probably already in
I'm
for
signing. This is me
All right.
signing the contract.
All right.
I'm ready.
Signed, done, and in the movie. So from all of us here today, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
that. So yeah.
Bye.